we must turn to the chi-squared statistical table, which are available in textbooks as well as on the internet. In order to use this table, we must determine the degrees of freedom for the test. The degrees of freedom, you'll notice, are written as DF on this table. They have different values. In this particular case, the degrees of freedom are determined as the number of rows minus 1 times the number of columns minus 1. The rows in this case refer to the possible answers to the first variable, and the number of columns refers to the number of values of the second variable. In our case, we had smoker and non-smoker. There are 2 rows, or possible values for the smoking variable, and the number of columns was 2 as well, male and female. If we had additional possible answers to the question of smoker, for example, frequency of smoking, as well as we had other questions about the gender, whether male, female, or other, these values would be different. So in our case, it's the number of rows is 2 minus 1, and the number of columns, possible values, is also 2 minus 1. 2 minus 1 times 2 minus 1 is equal to 1. Hence, the degrees of freedom for this particular test is 1, and we are going to look across the first row of this table. The second question to determine, and the experimenter must decide this, is the level of significance of the test. In this case, we're going to choose to conduct a test using the critical value of a 5% level of significance. This is 5% or 0.05 in decimal form. In having chosen this level of significance, we choose the column where the chi-squared is 0.05. See the arrow indicating, and this gives us our critical test value of 3.84. The chi-squared distribution has this appearance, where you can see that the blue area represents 0.05, 5%, and the pink area is 95%. 3.84 is indicated on the horizontal axis. To conduct the test, if our chi-squared statistic is lower than 3.84, we accept the null hypothesis. If the chi-squared statistic is greater than 3.84, we reject the null hypothesis. In our case, we calculated the chi-squared statistic to be 1.78. This is on the left-hand side of the critical value. It's in the acceptance region. Hence, we accept the null hypothesis and conclude that there is no relationship between the smoking and non-smoking and the second variable, the sex of the individual or gender of the individual.